I'm in a fight with the work a lot. It's not an inherently pleasant space to make art. There are moments where it is, and it's super rewarding in those moments. There are these moments where you feel like you're in a flow and you know it, and you're in this conversation, and it feels like this incredible quid pro quo. And there are other moments when you feel like you are in a fight for your life against the work, and you hate it, and you feel like you're failing miserably, and you feel scared, and then you think to yourself, am I ever going to make anything interesting again? Like, is this journey over? Like, have I lost it? Is this all? And at that point, it's a fight or flight scenario, and you have to kind of, bully it. You have to push it. You have to fight it, because running away probably isn't going to help you come to a solution.
Wow. Man, Nathan, that was pretty incredible. I'm excited for today's episode of Just Make Art, as you and I are back together. If none of you watched the last few episodes that we had with our good friend Jamel Wright Sr., I would highly suggest going back and watching that 2-part series, because it is fantastic as far as art history, as far as process, so many great things in that. And I'm so excited to go through what you brought to us to talk about today, this incredible little blurb of Rashid Johnson with Carrie Scott from Scene. So I'm excited, Nathan.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're not following Carrie Scott and listening to the Scene podcast, you definitely need to.
Yeah, you're missing out.
You're missing out. Yeah. So this came across, this is one example, Ty, of where, social media actually puts something, good in front of you.
Right. Yeah.
I was talking to, we're already off track. I was talking to a friend recently about the benefits of curating your own algorithm, retraining it because, it's easy. It's super important. It's really easy to, without getting into specifics, you watch or like one or two things, or just, even just spend time on a post that is interesting to you in the moment. And the feed is like, oh, you like that?
Yeah. It's so frustrating.
Here's all of that. So sometimes it's very useful to retrain your feed and retrain the algorithm. No, this is what I want to see. This is what I want to see. And,
right.
So when this came across, we weren't sure what our next episode is going to be about. And I shot it over to you and said, all right, I think we got our next episode. So we should clarify, this is not an episode about Rashid Johnson specifically. We do have one of those in the works, but the theme of this particular quote is going to be our jumping off point. Yeah. And so, Ty, what I really liked about this is, there's a lot to unpack here. It's a long quote. There's a lot of different veins and tentacles that we'll definitely get into. But I think it comes down to, really identifying the difference between inspiration and perspiration, So Rashid talks about those inspiring moments. We're in flow. We're in communion, quid pro quo. Everything's working back and forth, These are great. It's what we long for. It's what I am personally addicted to chasing, but they're inconsistent. They're not predictable. The rest of the time is much more adversarial. The relationship between us, in the work, we're not on the same team. We feel like we're moving in directions. We're trying to get the work to do what we want it to do, or at the very least, get it to do something that, in Rashid's words, is at least interesting, And so I think what really caught me about this quote specifically is, we talk all the time on the podcast about listening to the work, how important it is to listen. But I think this really highlights the other side of the coin, which is, what do we do? How do we interact with the work when it's not speaking up, when it's not, playing nice, And so I think, as he lays out the options that we have, when it's real work, it's fight or flight. And that's really interesting. So a lot of different directions we can take, but I just wanted to kind of give context to introduce this into the, ongoing, themes that we've discussed before. But what do we do? What do we do when the work's not playing nice? What do we do when it's not working? Which, I don't know about you. I got a pretty good idea. But I know about me. And that is more often than these beautiful, pristine, whatever moments that we strive for, but that aren't happening on a regular basis necessarily.
Well, in those moments, like, they're fleeting. They're not,
Yeah.
they're not, there's not an overabundance
Right.
of inspiration in moments. And, we hear the terms creative block, writer's block, artist block, like all those things. We've talked about that at length at times in the podcast, and talked about, which we'll talk about today too, overcoming resistance in those moments. And I love that you use quid pro quo. And we were chatting before and kind of laughing just about that. And you asked me what that reminded me of. And I said, one of the characters in the animated film Yellow Submarine with the Beatles. And it's a PhD, Jeremy Hillary Boob is his name in the cartoon. And he says,
if I spoke prose, you'd all find out I don't know what I talk about. Ad hoc, ad loc, and quid pro quo. So little time, so much to know.
And I never got that as a kid or as an adult, one of my favorite animated films. But thinking about it, I was like, wait a second, quid pro quo, so little time and so much to know. And then thinking about this episode, I just laugh at the little blue meanie guy running around, like yelling that. And I'm going, wait, that's how I feel in the studio.
Yeah.
I've got so little time here to make what I want to make. Right. But, and I have so much to know. So what do I do? So I want to just read that first line from Rashid when he
actually,
talking
before you
to Carrie.
do, can I share what I thought of when the first thing comes to mind?
What did you think? Yeah.
I'll play it. Here we go.
Quid pro quo. I tell you things, you tell me things. Not about the stakes, though. Not yourself. Quid pro quo. Yes or no? Yes or no, Clarice? Poor little Catherine is waiting.
Another great film.
That's the first thing that comes to mind for me, for sure. Yeah, Sir Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. But, to carry that forward, I tell you things, you tell me things. And you think about, I haven't watched that movie for a while, but just the adversarial nature of that relationship. Clarice is trying to get information
and he's
out of him. He's not, he ain't giving it up easy, if at all. Right. It's going to be a battle, And so, I just thought that was an interesting, reference to that particular theme.
Well, let me read this little beginning that Rashid answered there when he says, I'm going to fight with the work a lot. It's not an inherently pleasant space to make art. There are moments where it is, and it's super rewarding in those moments. All of you artists out there, you 100% know what Rashid is saying here, that I'm in a fight with the work a lot, and it's not a pleasant space to be in. I'm going through this with my current mentees who are in my program, who are all trying new things and experimenting with new ideas. And then I get an email or a WhatsApp that says, I can't figure anything out. Like, this is terrible. The work's coming out just horribly. And I'm going, you've only been doing it for 3 days. You've only been, you know what I mean? And it's like, but in our heads, we've got to do this today. I need to do this now. And it just doesn't work that way.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about the difference between being a tourist and being a resident. You and I both like to travel, you know, and you go somewhere, you dress a little more local. If you're in a different country, you try to learn some basic phrases and feel like you're, putting on the costume of somebody who is in that space, but you're just a tourist.
100%.
You're just a visitor. You don't get your mail there. You don't know what it's like to actually be of that place and from that place and in that place all the time.
Yep. Yeah. And I lived in China. I lived in Romania. Spent a lot of time around the world. And no matter what, I could never be Chinese. I can never be Romanian. I can try as much as I love the culture and I love the things. I'm just not.
Right.
And there are definite moments where I just really want to be what I'm around.
Yeah.
But I still don't understand what it's like to be them. I still don't understand what it's like to live the way they live. Or, it's just different. It's different culturally. Right. I want to understand the way you're thinking. Well, I'm not the same cultural person as you, so we don't understand certain things.
Right.
And that's our art.
Yeah.
Right.
To take that a step further, when you talk to friends who have not visited those places, I've not been to either of those countries. You are way more Chinese and Romanian than I am. Not obviously, at your core, but you know way more about that culture than I do. but when you're there, it's not even close, so it's similar to, I'm just thinking about the relationship that we have with the people in our lives who aren't artists, who maybe have done creative things. They've done, art for the sake of escape. That's not the right word. Therapy, whatever, just as a hobby. And that's great. People that have done any version of art, especially as adults, certainly know more about it than people that haven't done anything at all, but they don't live there, And so it's kind of like us, if we're really about that life, if we're really, embedded in this world, it's going to be difficult for us to try to communicate that, or for them to try and understand, where we're coming from when we are struggling, when we are trying to, complain or relate about how hard I think I've shared this example before, but one of my best friends, Justin, he always says, yeah, you can just how's it going with your finger painting? Just back there, lighting fires and finger painting all day. And it's like, yeah, kind of, but not at all also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I want to read a quote, Nathan, by Julia Cameron from The Artist's Way that we've talked about quite a few times on this podcast as well. One of my favorite books. And she says, the need to be a great artist makes it hard to be an artist. The need to produce a great work of art makes it hard to produce any art at all. And I think that's kind of that fight a lot for us when we go into the studio. We have this idea of what we want to make and we want it to be great. And so we go in with this mindset of, I'm going to produce what's in my head. Mm-hmm. And then you start and you're 20 years away from what you see, right? Your vision and what you can actually execute in that moment. And so that's that fight. That's not an inherently pleasant space, as Rashid says, to be in, because in your head, you're already going in thinking you're going to produce X. But then when you go in, you're not even in the alphabet yet when you start producing. So you're not getting to X. Like you're not even to A yet. You're still in your numbers. And so I think there's this fight and this understanding that Julie is saying is, get rid of being a great artist. You need to find that way to go in and just find the moments and make the space pleasant enough to where you can just grind out a ton of work over time and allow those things to happen.
Create the right conditions.
Huge.
That will lead to the result. Yeah.
Have to.
So that's a great lead into one of the quotes that I had selected and dropped into the mix here. It's a William Burroughs quote. Happiness is a byproduct of function, purpose, and conflict. Those who seek happiness for itself seek victory without war. As I was thinking about that quote relative to today's theme, if we reframe happiness or victory as successful work, interesting work, authentic work, then we must accept that it is often going to be a byproduct of conflict at the very least, and sometimes flat out war. Sometimes it's going to be a battle, sometimes we're going to have to fight. But when we accept the battle as part of the process, we're prepared for it when it comes. And I think as you're referencing people that reach out to you in your mentorship program and friends that you have, when they are in the battle and they're not accustomed to it, they don't have the calluses and the scars, of war to know that, you're going to get a little injured, maybe a lot injured. Yeah. And that's part of it. So it comes back to that acceptance of this is just part of it. This is a natural ingredient in the recipe. This is a necessary part of getting from where we're at to where we strive to be.
Well, and without time, you can't understand it. Mm-hmm. Because over time you accumulate knowledge, and then over time that knowledge becomes wisdom, and then you gain understanding through that wisdom of creating those situations in your practice to be able to keep fighting through those moments and finding happiness even in the failure. I think you and I talked about this 3 episodes ago. Like even being able to, at this point for me, I consider this a massive win, where when I'm in the studio, nothing's working and I'm at a fight with the work and nothing is working out, I still am able to have gratitude that I'm able to mess up and create terrible work because of all the time I've been spending for the last 20, 30 years making work or plus. Like I've been able to figure myself out.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of self work that we talk about all the time. There's a lot of self work we're doing as artists in the studio to recognize ourselves and recognize resistance so that we can throw it out the door and allow ourselves space to even find gratitude in moments where nothing's working.
Yeah.
Not easy. I'm not saying that's an easy thing. This is like an accumulation of lots of years learning that.
So that's a perfect lead into something else I wanted to talk about today. This is a quote from Sun Tzu from The Art of War. Know the enemy and know yourself. In 100 battles, you will never be defeated. Know the enemy and know yourself. That's what I hear you talking about.
Yeah.
Is the self-knowledge, the self-awareness, and the fulfillment that we're after. The work, however it turns out, however it's received, that's all great. That's a result, but what I hear you talking about when you share that is knowing yourself and knowing that to get fulfillment, to be okay with all of the steps along the way that are required, you gotta know who you are. You gotta know what you're about. You gotta be okay with things not working out with the sort of 30,000 foot view of, I've been here before. I've got reps. I know what happens. It's because all of it's cyclical, right? Everything that we do, it's very cyclical. It's not predictable. It's not like, hey, the sun will come up and it'll go down at a very predictable time. It's not like that. But the cycle always continues. It always goes from however nasty the battle gets, however uncomfortable we are, it's going to go somewhere. And I think about the enemy is resistance. So you brought Stephen Pressfield in the mix. So it's not the work itself. The work's not the enemy. But the resistance expresses itself, through the work. So if we know ourselves, we also know the enemy because that's what resistance is using. Resistance is using our self-doubt, our fear, the things that Rashid talks about, right? So when he says, you feel like you're failing miserably, you feel scared, you think to yourself, am I ever going to make anything interesting again? Is this journey over? Have I lost it? And, again, we're going to do an entire episode on Rashid and his work. But if somebody who's operating at that level has self-doubt and fear, right, it stands to reason that we probably are all going to have that self-doubt and that fear. And that is what the enemy, resistance, is using, something that is a part of the human condition, to get at us. That's the enemy. That's what we're fighting. It's not the work. It's the resistance and the way resistance uses us, right? Yeah. So back to that Sun Tzu quote, know the enemy and know yourself. When we know ourselves, when we can recognize, oh, interesting, there I am. Nathan's experiencing some self-doubt right now. Nathan's experiencing some fear right now. Huh. Okay. There it is. It's in the room. Okay. Hey, how's it going? Right. As opposed to, like, I can name it, I can claim it, I can point at it, as opposed to this sort of like general darkness that I can't put my finger on and I can't wrap my arms around. You can't fight something that you can't see. You can't fight something that you can't name, right, and identify as something to be dealt with.
Well, and that's the quid pro quo.
Yeah.
And that's what Sun Tzu is saying as well, right? There's the quid pro quo in that, knowing the enemy, knowing yourself. In 100 battles, you'll never be defeated. Like, I'm getting information from here. I'm getting information from here. Right. And then that's that conversation that feels incredible that Rashid's saying.
Yeah.
Like, it's going back and forth and you're having this conversation. There's an exchange where one favor or service is contingent on the other. If I don't know myself and I don't know the work where I'm going in between, there's going to be a lot of fighting.
Yeah.
A lot of fighting. And that's where that happens. I love that Sun Tzu says in 100 battles, you won't be defeated. Now, a battle doesn't mean that it's just making bad work. It's the attitude in that moment of, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep fighting through this. Right. And that's what Rashid's saying. He's fighting with the work all the time. It's going back and forth. That's not where I want it to go. Well, the work's telling me to go this way, but I don't want to go that way yet. Nothing's turning out the way I want to. How do I achieve this? How do I do that? And it is unpleasant.
Yeah.
Because you want it so bad to be this way. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we're just not ready and we have to let the work lead us. This is a conversation we just had with a few mentees from my program this last week. One of my mentees, Matt Wall, asked the question in our group and he said, I keep working on this work and it's not coming out the way I intend to. I feel like something else is starting to happen. And he asked the question, do I stay with where I want to go or do I follow what's happening? Because I have this idea for a body of work, but it keeps kind of changing when I'm working on the work. Mm-hmm. And everybody in the program, Louise Fletcher and Sal Strom and some of the more wiser artists who've been making work for a long time, before I even got there, said, follow the work. Follow the work. Don't follow you. Let the work lead you where it's going.
Yeah.
And that happened. I said, that happens to me every time I start a body work. I have this idea. I come in and I'm like, let's go. I'm going to roll on this. And then all of a sudden, one or two pieces in, the work goes, nope. You got to go this way. Got to go this way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the importance too of if you're not studying and listening to other artists, reading, listening on podcasts, watching YouTube interviews, whatever, you're not going to realize that you're not alone.
Right.
You're going to feel really alone. But the more you hear a Rashid Johnson say what you're saying, you're like, kidding me? Rashid Johnson saying what I'm saying? I got this made.
Yeah.
I can roll because he is everywhere I want to be as an artist.
Dear listener, write this down. Make this something that you revisit. It's an incredibly simple but incredibly powerful idea. It's not just me. It's not just me.
Yep.
In a vacuum that you're describing, in the absence of listening to and absorbing the experience and wisdom of other artists that we respect, it's going to feel like that. It's going to feel like, oh, surely Ty Nathan Clark is just banging out work, one gem after another, no resistance, must be nice. I mean, I see his reels. He's just hanging out with his puppy, drinking a cup of coffee, and boom, there's
every
another
day.
finished piece.
Yeah, that's it. That easy.
No, that ain't it. That's not the truth. It's not just you. It's everybody. It's part of what we are signing up for when we are a resident of this life and not just a tourist.
But I want to read a quote by Madeline L'Engle from the book Walking on Water. It's one of my favorite books. And she says, and I'm going to paraphrase here, getting out of the way and listening is not something that comes easily. Until I've worked through self, I will not be enabled to get out of the way. Someone wrote, the principal part of faith is patience. And this applies too to art of all disciplines. We must work every day, whether we feel like it or not. Otherwise, when it comes time to get out of the way and listen to the work, we're not able to heed it. That's everything we were just saying. Mm-hmm. We have to be able to find the way to get out of our way and listen. If we haven't worked through self, it's going to be really difficult to get out of our way when we're in the studio. We have to have patience and work, whether we feel like it or not, whether we're fighting with our work or we're in the flow.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when it comes time for us to just completely get out of the way and listen, we can't hear anything.
Right.
We can't hear. We talk about this all the time, you and I, outside of the podcast, but also on the podcast.
Sure.
We have to spend time listening to the work. Remove ourselves, remove all of our preconceived notions, remove all the doubt, all those things that Rashid's talking about, and just sit there and let the quid pro quo happen. Let the work give you something.
Let me ask you a question, Ty. I'm going to channel my inner audience member here. Okay, you guys talk about this all the time, this idea of working on yourself, this quote, working through self. We're nibbling around the edges of this very, essential idea. What do you tell people? Like, what advice do you give people to do that type of inner work?
Well, the first thing that I tell my artists that go through my program is to get rid of the noise when you're in the studio. Find ways to get rid of the noise. Obviously, we're all distracted by multiple different things. It's very, very easy right now to be angry, furious, and upset in our country in America. If I bring that into my studio, I will not be able to focus on my work. Now, that doesn't mean that that energy or those feelings can't drive my work when I'm working. But there's some of us that it's hard to turn off the phone. It's hard to turn off the TV. It's hard to turn off all the things that are making us angry when we go into the studio, because it's easy to sit down while paint's drying and pop open the phone and just start scrubbing through and then get completely out of the mindset you were in when you came in the studio. Yeah. And that doesn't just go with like political natured things, which is something that's very easy. I have to shut off when I come in the studio, right? I just can't focus.
Yeah.
I'm too mad. I'm too angry. I can't even bring thoughts together, right? I have to find those ways to separate things. And that could be comparison. So many artists that have gone through my program that fight with comparison on Instagram. So when they're in the studio and they're working, they start scrolling through the phone and see all the artists they want to be like. And instead of using that as like fuel to fire, it then distracts them of, oh, I'm never going to be as good as, or they're way further than me, or they just got that show and I didn't, those things. And then all of a sudden, you're in your way. You've just created a roadblock of you in your way. And I mean, there's so many things that this could be for a person. But we have to figure out those ways to take that deep breath when we enter our space. I don't know, breath work, meditate, take some silence, journal for a little bit, do your morning pages from the artist way, whatever it is that kind of just, I highly suggest that, by the way. For any artist that really struggles with being in their way all the time, go get The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron and start doing morning pages. I mean, Eric, our friend Eric, does them every morning pages. It's a way for him to just kind of stream of thought, just write and get stuff out. So when he starts working or starts his day, he's focused and has a clear mind.
It's so important. It's so important. I'm laughing because I met a really cool young man at the Apple store a few months ago who helped me with my phone, and turns out he's an aspiring filmmaker, and we just got to talking, and I said, yeah, come by the studio sometime, let's have a chat. He's like, oh, that'd be awesome, and I've been busy and holidays and all that, but to his credit, he was very persistent about like, hey, let me know what works,
I can come by,
just continue pinging me. So he came over and we had coffee and chatted here at the studio on Sunday, and he was looking at my books. He goes, I've heard about that Artist's Way book. Would you recommend it? I said, absolutely. And then he said, could I borrow it? And I said, no, you may not borrow it. Give me your address. I will send you a copy for your own. But these notes are precious. The things that I've got highlighted and underlined, I can't get that back. Not saying, that you wouldn't get it back to me, but that's too precious for me to let out of my possession. I'll get you yours. But it's such an important thing to realize, is that there is so much going on. There's so much that can really, what's the date? Is it the 28th today? January 28th. Yeah. Living in the Minneapolis area, things that are happening in my community, it's been really hard lately. It's been really hard. And it's not to say that we're completely putting blinders on to things that matter and things that affect us.
Right.
It is to say that an exercise like morning pages helps us to get that shit out.
Yep.
To be angry, frustrated, fearful, anxious, and to just let those little thought goblins see the light of day.
Yeah.
And then, and only then, are we able to go inward. You know, one of my favorite Clifford Stowe quotes, go inward.
Yeah.
What do you have to say? And if all we're doing is allowing the world, our phones, our feed to dictate how we feel and what we do with that, good fucking luck.
Yeah.
Good luck getting anywhere that you might want to go. Like, times like this, it's, I would say, necessary to have a practice like that, to be able to work through those things. And again, like you're saying, you know, take that energy into the work, but to do it in a way where we at least create the space for us to get to work in the first place, because it can be debilitating to just get stuck absorbing all of that.
Well, and I think that feeds what you said feeds great into a William de Kooning quote that you and I both love. And he says, I know there's a terrific idea there somewhere, but whenever I want to get into it, I get a feeling of apathy and I want to lie down and go to sleep. And I think too, like, if we're not able to shut off when we go in, it's really easy to fall into that right there. It's really easy to fall into, I get a feeling of apathy and want to lie down and go to sleep.
Yeah.
We're artists, so I don't care who you are. You're an artist, you're a deep feeler.
Yeah.
You can argue with me, men. We've had a few who've sent some comments into us about us talking about our feelings too much. But anyway,
what's your favorite one? Just paraphrase it.
Quit whining and crying and just talk about art. I think somebody said, I'm tired of men whining and crying. Just talk about art. Like, sorry, I'm sure that you're doing a lot of whining and crying, buddy, in your studio when stuff's not working out for you.
Well, knowing some people like that, having been a person like that, you know, probably in my younger years, I mean, you're whistling to the graveyard. You're pretending that things that aren't that are absolutely there aren't, which means that you're not making authentic work. That might be a bold statement. I don't know if you agree with that or not. It certainly isn't, back to our idea of conditions. You're certainly not creating the right conditions to make genuine, authentic work, if that is indeed your aim.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I just need you to co-sign.
A cosign.
That idea as I'm working it out in real time. But yeah, I mean, I would argue that it's immature to pretend that there aren't feelings there, that there isn't stuff, you know. It's unhealthy. Like, back to, you know, back to knowing yourself. I mean, how well can we really know ourselves if we're not willing to go inward and spend time with everything that's there, especially the uncomfortable things?
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. The Kooning quote is so good. Again, like, I mean, yet another of thousands of examples that we have and will continue to share of a legend who is telling us he gets a feeling of apathy and wants to lie down and go to sleep. Okay. So obviously he said that, which means that he felt it more than once.
Right. Yep.
Probably a lot. And in spite of that, made a ton of work.
A ton.
Of tremendous work, right? That's important. That's important. Oh, okay. Bill felt that way too. Great. I'm in good company. Yeah. It's not just me.
Well, I love I know. He says, I know. That's coming from experience and some wisdom. I know there's a terrific idea there somewhere.
Right.
But he gets in his way. Whenever I want to get into it, the apathy comes. He's recognizing his own resistance is his hunt. And I know this from studying de Kooning and reading multiple books on him, his biography, autobiographies. Plenty of de Koonians went out the window from his loft in New York. Plenty of stretched de Koonings went flying out the window. I always joke and go, oh, to be a person walking down the sidewalk when a de Kooning flew out the window, right? I'd have it made. But think about that. I know it's in there, but whenever I get into it, this overcomes me. He knows that fight. It's so hard to find the great idea and the work.
Yeah.
But you have to just keep going and go. Anyways, let me jump into that the third part in the Rashid Johnson quote. You mentioned it a minute ago, but I really want to go into this deeper. And he says, there are moments when you feel like you're in a fight for your life against the work and you hate it and you feel like you're failing miserably and you feel scared. And then you think to yourself, am I ever going to make anything interesting again? Is this journey over? Have I absolutely lost it? Nathan, I literally was in that conversation with myself 2 months ago, working on a piece. That piece is showing tomorrow night. It opens at Art Center Waco. I'm showing with a few of my dear friends and a few of your friends as well, which I can't wait. It's going to be fun. I have never shown with Eric before, so I'm super excited to show with Eric for the first time. I seriously felt like I was in a fight for my life with this work. And I was creating it for this large scale exhibition, and I worked and I was in the flow for a few days. And then I stepped back and I went, what the freaking hell did I just make? How did I just resort back to 2013? I literally created something that looked like either something I was doing in art school or right after in probably 2001. I don't even know where it came from because I was in a flow and things were kind of working and I was going wall to floor. And then I stepped back and I hung it up to take some pictures to kind of look at and went, have I lost it? I literally said those words. Have I absolutely lost everything? How did I just resort back to 20 years ago? And then it came and I painted over it and I created something that's nowhere close to where I started. Know the enemy and know yourself.
I'm a little bummed you didn't throw it out the window. I've actually
it almost went out the window.
Well, I guess now is as good a time as any to tell you I've paid both of your neighbors to keep an eye out.
Nice.
And if they find anything in the yard, drop it in the mail.
Yep. I mean, I'm sure that they heard F-bombs coming through the walls in those moments. There were plenty of loud. I talk out loud a lot when I'm in the studio. Oh yeah. And so there was plenty of loud bad words.
Right. Poor Cash.
But what do you do when you're in that moment?
Well, it's interesting. I was thinking about this. This is more the very last part of the quote, but when he says running away probably isn't going to help you come to a solution. This is when he's referring to the fight or flight scenario. And I was thinking about how often I choose flight. I run, and I was thinking back to the that Leonardo Drew quote of, or just his reference to the 7 crying babies that he always has, in the studio at any given time. Yep. When I say flight, I don't mean that I lie down and take a nap. Sometimes I actually do. Naps are great. I will take a nap and then I'll wake up and dust myself off and get back into the mix. But the flight for me is not, quitting altogether. It's going to a baby that is crying less or less recently. I think that is, the benefit of knowing yourself. Like, I know myself. I know what works for me. I know that I am at my best when I have dozens of works in progress. I have 40 to 60 pieces going right now. Some of them I haven't touched for months. But because I know myself, because I'm aware of what works, I can engage in a version of flight, that is running away from the baby who's crying loud, who is not, where it's not working, and go to another one, So it's not complete retreat. Right. It's recalibrating, what the data looks like. Moving on. Yeah.
Well, I think there's one of our favorite quotes that we've used multiple times on this podcast from Nick Cave's Faith, Hope, and Carnage. And he says, "When I say flight, I don't mean that I lie down and take a nap. Sometimes I actually do. Naps are great. I will take a nap and then I'll wake up and dust myself off and get back into the mix. But the Nick Cave talking about mystery has really helped me understand myself better when I'm in the studio and allowing mystery to be always present when I'm working, right? Because I'm constantly in a fight situation, right? And I'm not a flight person, like you were saying, you would kind of lean towards that at times. I just get really angry and I stay in and I look and I get more angry and I get more angry. And it's really easy for me in those moments of anger for apathy to set in, like de Kooning did, where I just would just sit there and just go, what am I even doing? Right. So Nick Cave says we have to operate at least some of the time in the world of mystery beneath that great and terrifying cloud of artistic unknowing. Artistic unknowing. Everything I'm doing, I really don't know what's going on. I don't know how it's going to end up. One thing's in my head, something else comes out. The creative impulse to me is a form of bafflement that often feels dissonant and unsettling. It chips away at your own cherished truths about things and pushes against your own sense of what is acceptable. I love what it says there because everything that I know that's a truth in what I'm doing, the work's not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. Everything I know in my head about what I'm going to do art-wise is only what I know how to do today. But when I'm working on something, it's not where my vision is. It can't be. I'm thinking of something that's so much better than what I'm actually doing in the moment. So it's pushing against my sense of what is acceptable. Yeah. That's what's operating in between those two things. It's the guiding force that leads you to where it wants to go, not the other way around. You're not leading it, right? That's my mentee, Matt Wall, asking that question. What do I do? The work keeps kind of changing and doing different things than what I'm wanting it to do. Well, the work is leading. You're not leading the work. The work is leading you. So you have to operate in mystery. There's a world of mystery that's happening between what you know how to do today with your brush or your hands or your tools or your metal or all those things, what you know today. But you and I both know at the end of the day, I'm far better than I was when I started it because I was in the studio working and making stuff. And that's leading to something new and better down the road. So I have to operate in that mystery, that unknowing. Does that make sense to you?
It does. It chips away at your own cherished truths about things.
Ouch.
I like that word. I mean, that could be... I love the way he speaks, the way he writes, that could be a lyric. Chips away at our own cherished truth.
He's up for an Academy Award, by the way, for song in my buddy's film Train Dreams.
Oh, yeah.
So
I haven't watched that yet. We need to talk about that offline, but anyway, yeah.
But he and Bryce Dessner are up for an Academy Award for the song in Train Dreams.
Amazing. So that word cherish, I think, is really important. We have a tendency to hold our truths, our idea of what is, very tightly. And what you're describing when you talk about the mystery, what Nick Cave is talking about, this world of mystery, the cloud of artistic unknowing, we can't be gripping things too tight. We can't be holding on to things so closely and so cherished. It's a great word. We can't fall in love completely and be absolutely dedicated and committed to the first idea. We have to be willing to be guided, to be blindfolded, to be shuffling through the dark in the hopes of what's to come, with just that faint little glimmer of something in the distance. But the only way we get there is if we let go, if we are able to discontinue our addiction to control, right?
Yeah.
That's what I read from that.
Well, and that's the Julia Cameron quote that I have listed below this one. Mystery is at the heart of creativity, that and surprise. All too often when we say we want to be creative, we mean that we want to be able to be productive. Now, to be creative is to be productive, but by cooperating with the process, not forcing it. And I shared this with some artists this last week because I went, all too often we say that we really want to make good art, but what we mean is we want to finish a painting.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, if you're doing that, you're forcing the process.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to finish this painting today. I'm going to go in and I'm going to make a painting. And it's going to be awesome. Well, you've already lost. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You're setting yourself up mentally to have a fight.
Right.
Because you're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Art is never finished. It's only abandoned. I forget who said that quote. It's only abandoned. Because every piece we hang, every piece we put out the door, we look at it later and go, oh, I should have. Oh, what if I could have.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that could be better. I could do this next time. Right. So cooperate with the process. Don't force it. Operate in the mystery. Give yourself space. All right, Nathan, I've got a great quote from an author, Barbara Brown Taylor, from her book, Altar to the World. And she says, no one longs for what he or she already has. And yet the accumulated insight of those wise about the artist's life suggests, and I'm paraphrasing here, suggests that the reason so many of us cannot see the red X that marks the spot is because we are standing right on that X. The treasure we seek requires no lengthy expedition, no expensive equipment, no superior aptitude or special company. All we lack is the willingness to imagine that we already have everything we need. The only thing missing is our consent to be where we are. I like that quote because I just want the artists out there, especially emerging artists, beginning artists, those just starting out or those just starting their journey into the gallery world or working with curators and those things. Like, it's really easy to say, well, if my studio were bigger, if I could only afford to buy Goldens, if I had enough of this, if I were working larger scale, if I had an art education, if I had a master's, like all of those things are great. But all you need is what you have today. You don't need those things to take the next step. Right? Jackson Pollock used house paint. Right? I walk into museums and I look, oh, interesting. That looks like house. Oh yeah, it's all cracked. It's all, you know what I mean? It's like, you don't have an excuse. Mark Bradford gets all the supplies at Home Depot. One of the biggest artists in the world. And he buys his stuff at Home Depot and collects billboards and rips posters off the street. And yeah.
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wearing my.
Perfect. You got your Home Depot shirt on.
Can you see that? Yeah.
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 My
when
dear
you buy
friend,
enough art supplies there, they'll just give you t-shirts.
Yeah.
That's great.
My dear friend Frances Beatty, everything she buys, she gets at Home Depot for installations in her things, or uses found objects or on-site, stuff she finds on-site, right? It's like, listen, all you need is just to recognize where you are and give yourself permission to be there.
Yeah.
Your own consent to be where you are.
This studio visit on Sunday, I was giving him a tour of the backspace, and he pointed out some of the rebar that I had taken off of a demolition site, and he goes, "Where'd you get that?" I said, "Oh, I got it from a demo site," and he said, "Oh, they just let you take that?" And I said, "Well, they don't guard it." I mean, these are massive piles of trash that's going to go in a landfill and be there for eternity.
Yeah.
So I gave myself consent to let myself onto the job site, move a couple of, very light plastic, fence pieces away, and off we go. But we have to give ourselves consent. No one else is going to give it to us. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got artist friends who work in living rooms, kitchen tables, extra bedroom, outside because there's no space in the house, that are using natural materials that they find out in the yard, that are painting with coffee and cheap wine, right? It's like, listen, you have exactly what you need today to make your best work. Mm-hmm. So give yourself permission to do that. Let Nathan and I, I'm looking at you all. We're giving you permission right now to do that. Whatever you have, you can make your best work with. So give yourself permission to be where you are and use what you have and go create the work.
Do what you can with what you have where you are right now. I think that's a Teddy Roosevelt quote.
I was going to say Nathan Terborg, January 28th, 2026.
Let's go with that. Yeah, cut out the part where I properly attribute it to the original speaker. Yeah. Yeah, that's all me.
Yep.
I'm fully authorized to give you authorization.
I think that's a good place to stop. We just want to encourage you all. We know how tough this is. And so we always want to be an encouragement to all of you out there making art in whatever way you are. You're going to have situations where you're going to fight with the work and you're going to doubt yourself and not think you're good. And you probably aren't yet. Most of us aren't yet. We still need time to develop and create those things. But if Rashid Johnson is saying it, you're okay. You're going to be okay if you're making work. If you're letting it get in the way and you're not making work, now you got a problem.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I've got a fun week ending with our opening tomorrow night. I can't wait. So I'll share some pictures on our Instagram page of the opening tomorrow night with a bunch of my friends. That's just going to be incredible. Spencer Welsh, that we've talked about on here before. Mm-hmm. I'll be showing with her. Winter Rosalowski, who's a professor at Baylor, incredible painter. There's just an incredible group. Eric Bryce and myself and Vino. Who else is in there? Russell here in Waco. Focus Lily from Round Rock, Texas. It's a large work show. It's going to be really fun. I'm excited. Fun group of artists. It's going to be a blast.
I wish you all the best. I wish I could be there.
I know.
In the meantime, everybody, just make art.
Yeah, go do something.